Now that my painting is dry, I'm going to work on my birch trees. So what we created here with these lines is the shadow casting from the trees. That means the shadow side is going to be on our right side of the paper. So you're going to use another piece of watercolor grade paper, and we're going to make our vertical lines. These do not have to be straight. In fact, it's better if they're a little uneven lines. And it doesn't matter how close you put these together because they will be cut out eventually. You want some thin trees and some very thick trees as you are creating them. This piece of paper is longer than the one that I am working on right now. So I know my trees will be long enough. I'll be able to trim them down to the right size. I mentioned that the shadow side is going to be on the right, so what I'm going to do is choose a darker color, perhaps a blue or a purple, and I'll grab my watercolor, and on the right half of all of these trees I'm going to do a line of paint. And you want to be consistent. Whatever you're using on one, go ahead and use that on all of them. I'm also going to add some yellow on the other side of the trees. I'm imagining that the sun is coming onto the tree. It's casting a little bit of a glow. If the yellow and the blue do blend a little bit, that's not a big deal. It'll just make a nice green. But if you don't want that, I don't want that, so I'm using some paper towel to kind of blot up every once in a while, blot the water so that it doesn't blend together. Before I'm done with these trees, I'm going to use some acrylic paint. So I just poured a little bit of acrylic paint out on a flat piece of paper, and I'm going to use some tag board or some cardboard and just kind of put the edge into the paint. And what I'll do is bring this over onto my trees and bring it across. I'm making those lines that you see on the trees, on birch trees. And again, if we get out of the lines a little bit, it's not going to matter because we will be cutting these out. So your goal is just to bring those lines across. Sometimes I kind of make my line first and then bring it across. That's looking pretty nice. You'll do this to each tree to complete it, and then we'll be cutting these out and adding them onto our landscapes. On these thin trees, you'll see me maybe just choosing one side or the other to add my black to and bring it across. I don't want to lose the tree as I'm adding my black, so I want to be a little bit more conservative, maybe adding one or the other side. Again, it doesn't matter. Remember, it just doesn't matter if you're going outside the lines. The trees that I just got done making are the trees that are going to be in the foreground. In the background, since everything is dry, I can take my dry brush method and go ahead in here and add a couple of dark trees in the background. So I'm going into, I'll use a brown, and these are so far away that you don't even see the details on them. You just kind of bring it up, starting at a shadow and bringing it right off the page. You'll do that to, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, about halfway down. You don't want to go further than halfway down. Some of these trees might end up being covered up later on, and that's all right. And again, if these lines are a little crooked, that kind of helps out sometimes. You can make it about this thick. I wouldn't go thicker than this. So I have my 5. 3, 4, 5 is about appropriate for this. And you only want it on the upper half. You're always starting on one of these lines that you've created. Alright, I've cut all of my trees out. I have them all ready to go. At the bottom of my tree, I want to round this out just to make sure that it looks like a tree. And then wherever I place this, I need to make sure that there is a shadow coming from it. The other thing that I need to be sure of is that the blue is on the shadow side and the yellow is on the light side with the light source. So I'm going to use the trees that I've created. Let's see, yellow would be over here, so I need to go ahead and curve the bottom, and then I can place that up here. Notice that these go right off the page, and right off the page by quite a bit. At the end of this, once we glue them all down, then we'll trim them up. Not before, that is after they're glued down. So I will do this with both my very, very thin ones and the thick ones. Place them all down first, and like I said, we might be covering up some of the trees in the background, and that's okay. Once they're all laid down and we have a good idea of what we want this to look like, you can go ahead and glue them. And also consider having some of your trees a little crooked. Not all trees are perfectly straight up and down, and maybe even overlapping a little bit. That'd be kind of cool. So play around with this, get it to the right composition, and then go ahead and glue these down. I would also suggest that if you have any of these lines that go off from your page, that you could place one of these trees down and then cut along the side as well. So there's lots of options here for you as an artist.